Our self-run test, a 15-minute test that is run from the cloud, will provide indications for risk of Parkinson's, essential tremor, Alzheimer, vascular dementia, frontotemporal dementia, etc.
Okay. Welcome to Startup Health TV, where we celebrate the entrepreneurs and the innovators who are transforming health. I'm Logan Plaster, here at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference with Nathan Intrator, CEO and founder of Neurosteer. Nathan, great to see you.
Good to see you.
It's been really interesting getting to know Neurosteer and your story as you've joined Startup Health's Alzheimer's Moonshot. And what I really want to start with is your transition from expert in signal processing, working with dolphins and bats and understanding how they handle that, how they process signals, to then moving into healthcare, into working with humans. And it's an interesting sort of transition story. So kind of take us there.
So, you know, the chorus of 100 billion neurons is producing amazing music, amazing sophisticated signal. And it was obvious that it requires sophisticated signal processing to understand that. I realized that it's the harmonics of the signal that are important, just like the harmonics of a musical instrument are important to separate between different musical instruments. I was familiar with a method called harmonic analysis to analyze signals.
Is it possible for you to help us understand what harmonics are at a non-scientific level?
Absolutely. So if we look at the sound of the violin and the trumpet, the so-called fundamental frequency, which is the frequency where most of the energy is pretty much the same. But it is the harmonics, the higher frequencies, that provide the so-called color to the sound. So we say that violin has a warm sound and the trumpet has a metallic sound. It's really the harmonics, okay? And I thought maybe these harmonics are related when we analyze an EEG signal, okay? Because everyone is looking at the fundamental frequencies, you know, the very low frequencies, alpha, beta, gamma, which starts from half a hertz to 30 hertz or maybe 90 hertz. And I thought, well, maybe there's more information in the higher frequencies.
Okay.
That requires a wider dynamic range signal sensor to kind of capture that. I did that. I did all that in the university after doing the more conventional EEG and fMRI. And then I started using it, but on healthy subjects, mainly students.
Okay.
And I thought, well, it could be useful for education, for attention issues, etc.
When you say use it, is it like a EEG sort of situation?
Yeah. So I got a sensor that is on the forehead.
Across the forehead, okay.
Yes.
And it gives you a signal, lets you understand brain activity.
Exactly. And I started analyzing from pilots to students, students performing different cognitive tasks, students losing their attention. And I gave an interview in the paper about education and the use of that to help students with attention. And the following day, I got a call from a woman who said that her husband is in a coma for 5 years. The doctors basically said there's nothing they can do and there's nothing to expect. And she was wondering if I could listen to that brain with my device and tell her something she doesn't know.
What did you think hearing that?
I didn't think. The next day I was there. The next day I was there saying, well, maybe I could. And I put the sensor on the husband. Now the husband had zero wrinkles because no muscle in his body moved, so it was like totally gazed like this with open eyes, but nothing moved. And I put the sensor on and I immediately saw that there's a lot of response, much more than I expected. When his wife talked to him, I could see increase in response. When we played the music that he liked, we see increased response. When we moved away, we saw that the response is going down. So we certainly saw this functionality in the brain activity. We actually let the person that was helping him talk Nepalese to him so that he would listen to a language he's not familiar. We saw that there was no response. So we actually could see this right away. Now, mind you, he was my first comatose patient, but still I saw the response. Told her, you know what, I do see quite a bit of response. That motivated her a lot. And she lived in a small village. She arranged that every hour in the day there will be someone from the village being with him, reading the paper to him, talking with him, sounding music to him, listening to some technical lectures that he kind of liked to listen. And the short story is that after 8 months, the guy got back to consciousness.
He woke up.
Yeah, he woke up to the point that he could respond, could remember words from songs that he used to sing in the chorus, so he remembered the words. He could even answer some mathematical questions like, what's the derivative of x squared, which is not something that you kind of encounter.
Do you remember how you felt when you learned this news?
So his wife said something to me that no one else said to me. She said, "Thank you, you brought my husband back." And I said, no papers that I publish in the university will ever give me that kind of gratitude that I got from her. And I understood, so I kind of checked with her. The guy has seen no EEG. They did not put any EEG on him. They did do MRI, but something that I could see right away, they didn't see. And in this situation, when you stimulate a person, you actually activate them to the point where slowly they go back to conscious. He lost consciousness because during a cardiac operation, there was no blood coming to the brain for a while, and that's what happened.
You mentioned EEG, so back up to why is the standard procedure for measuring brain activity not enough right now?
You're good. That's a very important point. So the language of the brain is no doubtably electrophysiology. Neurons, when they fire, they actually release an electronic signal, okay? And so this is the right way to look at the functionality of the brain that is responding to some stimulus, the brain that is falling asleep, the brain that is comatose, the brain that is going into mild cognitive impairment, etc., okay? All the rest, which would be blood or MRI or fMRI, is a proxy, a much slower proxy, once every 3 seconds, indicating that oxygen is coming to the brain.
I see.
But it's not the high resolution signal that the brain can produce.
Okay.
And so listening to the EEG is key. However, the seminal work was done 100 years ago, and that work was seminal for 100 years ago, but not for nowadays when digital signal processing has progressed dramatically in the last 40 years. And I realized that, well, if I bring very sophisticated signal processing, maybe I can reduce the number of electrodes, so I don't have to put them all over the head, but just put them in the front, in that area that makes decisions, etc. That will make the sensor much smaller and therefore less expensive, easier to use, and definitely easier to use outside of the clinic or outside of the person lying in the MRI like this, and unable to move. That's obviously not the natural. Kind of thinking about the halter for the heart that we take home and we run it with it around, and that gives us the functionality of the heart when it's under challenges. I wanted to do the same to the brain.
So that brings us to now, 100 years of research. Now you've got this, what, is it 3 leads?
So I have 3 leads.
3 leads, it's
very
stick it on
simple,
your forehead.
Stick on the head, and listening with a single microphone, kind of like we listen to an orchestra with a single ear and can hear the whole orchestra. And then we take that into serious cognitive assessment and functional assessment that can help us with Alzheimer's, with Parkinson's, with other neurodegenerative disorders. That's really what we are trying to do with it. We have already published a nice paper on Parkinson's showing the difference in the connectivity. What is connectivity? Connectivity is listening to the whole orchestra, and you can think of each of the musical instrument as a functional neural network in the brain. So not just listening to the different musical instruments, but actually, are they all listening to the conductor? Are they really responding and working coherently? That's connectivity. We can do that with a single channel, which is quite novel and important.
So imagine, let's cast out 5 years, 7 years. if everything you're working on sort of goes as planned, how would you like to see this come to market for average patients? Where would they encounter Neurosteer?
Absolutely. So the seniors go to their primary care physician once a year. They would measure cardiac activity, heart rate, blood pressure, weight and height, and potentially are going to be sent to do blood tests to look at their cholesterol level and other indications that may show some kind of inflammation or deficiency in the body. Our self-run test, a 15-minute test that is run from the cloud, and all it requires is a person to put the sensor on, press a button, and the person is listening to a speaker providing verbal instructions and musical challenges, can be run at the primary care physician.
Okay.
And the goal is that this one test will provide indications for risk of Parkinson's, essential tremor, Alzheimer, vascular dementia, frontotemporal dementia, etc.
Okay.
So from one test, kind of like one blood test, you will get an indication of multiple potential deficiencies. Why is that possible? Because different deficiencies change the orchestra in a different way. Okay. In some place, the cognitive functions of the brain are not going up when there's more cognitive challenge. In other cases, the areas or functions that are related to default mode network or resting activity are way too high and are not going down as needed. All that can be seen in that kind of connectivity analysis, and therefore can indicate changes that are related to the specific
Very
deficiencies.
Okay, so obviously at an event like this, you're trying to find strategic partners, investors, kind of like create the community necessary to come to market.
Yeah.
Who is the ideal partner for Neurosteer at this moment that would kind of unlock your growth?
So, of course, we want data of Alzheimer's patients and vascular dementia patients. So they have to be labeled with the gold standard, which would be PET-CT or CSF for Alzheimer's, and MRI for vascular. We can provide them indications of changes in connectivity that very quickly they'll see are correlated with Alzheimer or other deficiencies, and then they could reduce the need to scan 10 or 100 patients to find the right patient and just scan much less. So we can save them money.
Which
later,
can speed up clinical trials. Right.
Absolutely. So this is for clinical trials, and later as bringing them customers to their drugs.
Okay. Final question. You've been a part of the Startup Health Alzheimer's Moonshot for a few months now. You've gotten to take part in some of the community activities. Have you had any experiences where you've sort of experienced the benefits of sort of collaboration and community as people kind of support each other around this theme?
Yeah, absolutely. So one, I see that the deficiencies that I have, which would be more around the business development and these aspects, I'm not the only one. So there are technical people complaining about that, or I'm learning from people that have much more experience than I have in business development, etc. And I'm definitely taking some of what I'm learning to the company itself.
Yeah.
2, there's beautiful community. And 3, the moonshot itself. So we understand that to solve Alzheimer, you do require a lot of collaboration. And I do find collaborations inside the moonshot already.
Awesome.
So it's very helpful.
Nathan,
Thank you.
thanks for taking time with me. Here, we'll do right hands.
Thank you.
And we love what you're doing at Neurosteer, and we wish you the best in the coming year. Hope it's a great conference for you.
I really appreciate that. Yes, it's a wonderful conference. 9,000 researchers on Alzheimer's. There's a lot to talk. Absolutely.
All right. Great to see
Thank
you.
you.
Be well.
Thank you.